So the first winery that we're going to talk about is FJ Gritsch. They're located in Wachau, and more specifically, they're located in Spitz. The family now has been there for over 225-ish years. They bought the property in the late 1700s, but there's been wine growing going on there since the time of Charlemagne. FJ Gritsch, he also now is the winemaker. He took over for his father, and they're located in Spitz. And Spitz is important because Spitz is the coolest area of the Wachau. When you look at a map of the Danube, you have Leubenberg, which is closer to Kremstal, and you go around towards Dürnstein, then through Weißenkirchen, Wussendorf, and then you end up in Spitz. So Spitz is a cooler climate than you are in Leubenberg. So why does that matter? Most of the vineyard sites that Gritsch has are all around Spitz. When I first was introduced to the wines of Gritsch, actually I was a sommelier at Gordon Ramsay. And then years later, once we started building the portfolio in Austria, it was actually Franz Josef Gritsch who emailed me and was looking for a new importer. And that was one of those great moments because I already knew the wines. It was one of those things saying like, okay, well, what would you like to do? Because I'd already had experience selling the wines. I had already seen the quality of the wines. One of the things to also understand when we're talking about the Wachau is the premier area for Riesling and Grüner Veltliner in Austria. Outside of Austria, everyone knows the Wachau. Comtal and Kremstal both have top quality vineyard sites, but it is the Wachau that usually has the more prestige out of the three regions. The one thing here is that the most important thing and why it gets so exciting too about the area is that the family's been there since the late 1700s, and Franz Josef Gritsch, he took over for his father, and when he was a young boy around 10 years old, they made their first big cask that you'll see in the winery that is carved with his name on it for his Geburtstag, and it's all there, and I'm sure we have some great photos or something of that as well. Franz Josef really is a top quality producer. He is on the same level as the FX Picklers and the Emmerich Knolls, just not as well known. Franz Josef is extremely dedicated to his vineyards, and he also has been growing the business and even acquiring new vineyard sites, and also even growing his claims that he has in certain vineyards as well. The most important thing about Gritsch is their location. In Spitz, Spitz is the coolest area of the Wachau, but also the vineyard sites that are around the house. His house, the Mauritiushof, which has been there for hundreds of years, is facing towards the Zingerriedel. And Zingerriedel is right on the Danube. Last time I was there, it was raining, and I was really disappointed thinking that we weren't going to get to see the vineyards. And then all of a sudden, the clouds broke and we had a double rainbow across the Danube, and it led straight to Zingerriedel. And one of my favorite experiences with Franz Josef, he walks out and he says in German, "Nur die Beste für die Gäste," which is only the best for the guests. And we had a little fun time just joking, saying, did you call the Austrian government and tell them to turn on the double rainbow? And it's just a magical place. But Zingerriedel in particular, that is a single vineyard site, and the Thousand-Eimer-Berg, those are the two that are around Spitz that he has that are the most famous in that area. Zingerriedel is mostly famous for Riesling from the higher elevation, and the Grüner Veltliner that we have is very limited. We only get about 60 bottles per year. This is the lower part of the slope. And what makes this very important site, and actually everything that we're going to talk about with all of the different single vineyards, is the soils. So the soils are different in the Wachau compared to Kremstal and Comtal. But in the Wachau, the main soil that you're going to see around is a Perenneis. Perenneis is a metamorphic rock that is similar to a granite, but granite is an igneous rock. but the Pyrenees has been crumbled and crushed. So you have this kind of broken up, very high iron concentration, very high in quartz, and the Singeriedel has quite a lot of this vineyard soil underneath, and then it also then has some marl and some clay on top, but it's very highly concentrated. And so with the Singeriedel, that's where you're going to get that really, really mineral focus on the Grüner Veltliner. Now, if you just went around the corner, so not staying where we are in Spitz, but just slightly around the corner to the Hochrein. Hochrein is next to the little village town of Wissendorf. And actually the Hochrein is right on the Danube as well, but it is richer in loess. And loess is a iron-rich sand that blew off the Alps millions of years ago. And it is fantastic soil for Grüner Veltliner in the sense that it helps make very rich, round, full-bodied Grüner Veltliner because it retains water. One thing to always remember about Grüner Veltliner in general, not always, is that Grüner Veltliner is a vine that likes to keep its feet wet. So the loess soils can really hold a lot of the moisture and rainfall in the soils. So the Hochrein in general is going to be a rounder style of Grüner Veltliner than compared to Singeriedel. All right, so the Kirchpoint Grüner Veltliner is named after the Kirche of Spitz. Kirche means church in German. And these are vineyard sites that are around the church in the town of Spitz. This is the entry-level Grüner Veltliner from Gritsch. That said, it still has a lot of complexity, aromatics. It's just fresher than, say, the Hochrein or the Singeriedel. The wine is fermented in stainless steel, and there is selected yeast on the Kirchpoint, whereas the Hochrein and the Singeriedel are both native yeast. So the next vineyard site that we're going to talk about is the Pleuris. Pleuris is actually just to the left of Singeriedel, up this hill. It's a whole bowl that goes around the town of Spitz. And Pleuris is a newer wine for Gritsch. He's always had these vineyard sites, but it was used to make other wines, but now it's a single vineyard wine. The Pleuris itself is very fruity and aromatic on the nose. Where you think about more Riesling as being about that bright minerality, this has that, but really a lot of like honeyed notes and round fruit. It has also bright acidity, but it is a rounder style of Riesling. Actually kind of reminded me somewhat of some Alsatian Rieslings as well. Another very famous vineyard site in the Wachau next to Spitz is the Tausend Eimerberg. And why this matters is that an Eimerberg and Thousand Eimerberg means it's 1,000 Eimers mountain. And an Eimer was a unit of measure for a big basket, which actually was 57 liters. And so on good vintages, they could get 57,000 liters out of this vineyard site. Now this of course is from the old days when like getting quantity was very, very important, but it shows the quality of the vineyard as well. And this is a one round hill that's just south of the town of Spitz, right next to Gritsch's winery as well. We have which is now classified the Ried Tausend Eimerberg, and this is a also richer style of Riesling, but has a very, very bright mineral core. The Kalkofen vineyard is also quite special. And talking about geology in the area, it still has the Pyrenees as well. Kalk also means limestone. There is limestone there, but there's not as much of that as you would think. It is mostly that Pyrenees and also a granite mixed or metamorphic rock that is also Pyrenees as well. It makes it very unique. It's in the Spitzegraben, which is actually up the hill, further up into the mountain. An even cooler area than the other areas of Riesling that Gritsch has. One thing about this vineyard site is that on this one particular, they use a concrete egg as well as the oak barrels for the aging and the elevation and the fermentation. And the reason why he does this, and on this one vineyard site, they actually By hand, each berry is picked and inspected and put into the fermenter. That is what makes it very, very unique. And with the Kalkofen, you would see, again, very firm, very tight Riesling with a lot of acidity. Lastly, but not least, is the Dürnsteinerberg monopole. So this is a very important vineyard site in the sense that it is a monopole. Only Franz Josef Gritsch has this particular vineyard. There are other winemakers like FX Pickler that has other Dürnstein and Kellerberg that's around this, but this is the Dürnsteinerberg. Berg means castle in German, and it is the single vineyard that is walled off, and it's basically its own clos right along the Danube and next to the UNESCO heritage site town called Dürnstein, which has the steeple that has the light blue. So if you see on the capsule of the wine bottle, there is a light blue capsule as well, and also the seal of Dürnstein. It's a very steep vineyard. It is one of those vineyards where you're not allowed to have a glass of wine while you're harvesting because it can be quite dangerous. And then this is also, compared to the others, which are fermented, quite dry, which is either 4 grams per liter or less, the Dürnsteinerberg is usually between 7 and 9 grams per liter on residual sugar. And so it does have a more richness, unctuous texture than the other wines. So one of the things you need to keep in mind about Gritsch when you see our portfolio is that we might have some vintages that are 2022 and earlier, or after 2023, the designation has changed. In the olden times, and even now, there's many producers that still use the Vinia Wachau system, which is a level of classification of the alcohol levels. And so that's why you'd see wines that have Federspiel or Smaragd level. And that's really just based on alcohol level. It has nothing to do with just also quality. Usually the best vineyards, we're also making the Smaragd level. What Franz Josef Gritsch is doing now is he has left the Vinia Wachau and now has joined the DAC system, which is, going back to what we said before, it's about vineyard designate only. He is not the only winemaker in the region to do this. Top producers are also moving to the DAC to just focus on single vineyard. So when you see in the portfolio that we have a Smaragd of 1000 Eimerberg 2022, but then 2023 just says Ried 1000 Eimerberg, this is the same level quality wine. It just now they are not using the Vinia Wachau classification.